Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Welcome back to another episode. Dear Diary, what have we learned this week? We always learn something in the stock market, and that is why I absolutely love it because no 2 days are the same. Truly, they're not. And if you know anything about moving money, the stock market is like looking in a mirror. If you do things well, or if you do things not so well, the reflection that you see in the mirror, it is all you. And there's a lot for you to learn. There's a lot of processes, systems, structures, philosophies, concepts, and all of the things that you need to go through. But the market truly will expose you. So, again, welcome to another episode. I'm Eugene Brown, and thanks for being here at the Diary of a Stock Trader. And in these episodes, my goal is always to leave you with something that will help you in your building wealth journey. And so, again, in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the pitfalls and the strengths of traders, investors, whether that be short-term investors or traders or long-term investors slash traders. And so reading, it says, have you ever wondered why two people can look at the same chart and get different results? The answer may have less to do with the stock and more to do with the person who's actually looking at it. And all of that makes sense, guys. My journey to building wealth has been choppy, and there has been lots of starts and stops, but eventually you figure it out. In the books behind me, I think I showed you in another episode, in 2006, I had written out some goals in the back of a book called Trading for a Living. And then some 10 years later, I was still working on the same goals, which was trying to take some money and then eventually build that balance over a given time. And typically, you know, that falls into the category of what people will call SMART goals, that are S stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. So you want to have some SMART goals. You want to put pen to paper and kind of lean in and figure out and chart a plan as to what you're trying to do. And I would encourage you to not to overly listen to people who may not know what they're talking about. Because I can assure you, anything you put your mind to and you actually put the training behind it and that skill set behind it, you're going to find most goals can be achieved. And so I would encourage you today, again, to write it down someplace, maybe in a trading journal or a trading planner, and track what you're doing week by week, ideally day by day. Many of you will not be full-time traders. Most of you are probably going to be in the camp of you're working and you're not committing, some 6, 7, 8 hours a day to finding stocks, qualifying them, and enter and exiting them ideally profitably and consistently. And so let's jump into some of the pitfalls. The first thing that comes to mind would be discipline or lack thereof. And what do I mean by that? It's discipline in everything you do. Discipline is are you waking up on time so that you can capture the necessary market information, whether that be, on a laptop, from the TV, from a newspaper of all places, from the radio. What are they talking about the marketplace? Do you have the discipline to start to learn the additional details? Like a couple of days ago, it might have been just yesterday, we had the new chairman of the Federal Reserve. Oh, by the way, it's it's not a federal institution, the Federal Reserve. Just, you can look it up. It has nothing to do with the government. It ties into the government, but it's not a federal institution. Anyway, the Federal Reserve that dictates monetary policy, the discipline to lean into some of that information and to begin to understand how raising or lowering interest rates will have an effect on companies, and it will have an effect on the consumer. And I'm certainly know that most of you know that, but you may not really specifically know really how all of it works. So the discipline to do all of the things, the homework, the researching the stocks, the scanning, the reading the press releases, to look at some of the financial information, to lean into both the technical analysis, both from the charts as well as technical indicators, to really lean into risk management. Do you have the discipline to do the things that you're supposed to do? And do you have the discipline to not do the things you're not supposed to do, such as over trading, meaning you're constantly moving money, trade. Gambling, treating your money as if it grew on trees. Do you have the discipline to do homework? Maybe study some new things from some of the books or online that will teach you some things so that you can sharpen your skills. So discipline will always win the day. So I would highly encourage you to become incredibly disciplined in your walk towards financial freedom. Some of the other things, no goals, I would say, or having goals. People that typically have their goals in a place where they can see them and read them, a lot of those people, at least better than average, will tend to get those things done. So do you have goals that you can see and that you can actually attain those goals? So discipline, goals, are you, too maybe aggressive? You can't be overly aggressive when the market certainly does not dictate that. If you're in a market that just continually pulls back and pulls back and pulls back, but you're super aggressive with everything that you do, you better know what you're doing, because if not, it's going to cost you. Listening to friends and family about stocks, they probably don't know any more about it than you do, most of them. So be careful where you take advice from. Again, treating money maybe like it grows on trees. The market's going to expose all of that. If you grew up in a house where it was just spend, maybe you had a lot of resources, or maybe you had very little resources and you were still spend, and you cared very little about establishing a foundation of monetary resources, if you will, money, so that you could build on that. So if you didn't have if you don't have the right makeup, that is also a problem. There are so many pitfalls to moving money, and you have to recognize, I always tell my clients, number one, be sure to my previous point, who you are as it relates to money. And failing to do that is also yet another problem. Because if you don't know who you are, like some folks who would lose sleep at night if they lost $100, you need to know that about yourself, because that's certainly going to help dictate the type of stocks you buy, the longevity of the purchase, how long you're going to actually be in the stock. And it will guide and it will shape your actions when you understand self better. Let's take a look at a couple of names. Let me stop this thing and turn the camera around. Okay, so what we're looking at here is just 4 charts in 4 sections, and I'll make one of them just bigger so that we can see it better. Give me 1 second. Okay, and there's a very disciplined way uh, about doing what I do in the markets, and a lot of it begins with charting. And if you're going to get good at what you do, you better get good at reading a chart. So the stock we're looking at here is Micron, symbol MU up here in this corner. And we're looking at the stock in a 1 hour time frame at the moment. We're going to change this to a weekly time frame so we can get an idea of what's going on. And then I'm going to make this bigger so we can see it better. So what we're looking at, these are volume bars. This is one of many technical indicators that will help us decide on whether we want to buy the stock and where we would buy it as well. And here, we can add a number of studies and a number of indicators that will help us in the process. So if I want to go to a quick study, there are a variety of studies that I can add. But as we think about how the market exposes you, it typically stems from really a lack of knowledge, of the willingness to, or the failure to learn what you need to learn so that you can be good at what you do. And so in the most simplistic of ways, like this is a resistance line. Go a little closer in. You can see the stock stops here, 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 here. It looks like it can't get through this line. And this bottom part is support. So you have resistance and you have support. Every time we were down here, it seemed to hold. This is simply an uptrend. And this is obviously simply a downtrend where we were going down. And learning what these candles represent are important. If the candle is green, it means the stock closed higher than the previous time frame. In this case, the previous time frame we're looking at is the weekly chart right here. So each one of these candles represents a week, 5 trading days in this candle, because it looks like a candle, right? Let's take a look at it. It looks like a giant candle, right? So what you learn and what you fail to learn about patterns, technical indicators, the analysis, the technical part, which is not that hard, are the things that will help you flourish in the market, where you're not exposed. Your weaknesses, the things that you have failed to learn and failed to do, will not be exposed in a bad way. So there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to see and do. What I would encourage you to do is to, say, open a brokerage account. We'll move over here and set it up in a way that makes sense for you. In my case, what I like is I like to have the news right here, time in sales. If the stock market were open, it's closed. We're after 8 o'clock. Watch list. If I have, scans or things I want to access, I just can simply go to them. And if I have any other things I want to follow. Maybe it's a TV or whatever down here in this corner. And then I have my chart and all of the tabs that can help me, such as scan. If I want to scan for particular setups or things that I like, I can run scans. I just simply, come over here, can load a scan query. Maybe it's a public one. Show me the percentage gainers for the day. And I click on it. And then I simply go run the scan. And then it'll run that scan. And it'll eventually produce the gainers for the day. It's taking a moment to load here. But you get the picture. You saw the other stocks that were there. So it will load at some point here. And then you've got all these trading tools and ways that you can increase your education. If I click on education right there, then I'm going to be able to learn more about trading or stocks or options, futures, etc. And you just get smarter and smarter so that you're not exposed. So what I will say, learning to move money and move it well is a function of time. It does take time to learn some of the nuances. And the more time that you spend with learning, the less likely that you're going to have all of your flaws exposed in the marketplace. Finally, I would say in this episode, get some coaching or really lean into maybe a good online course. I myself have been self-taught. There's still quite a lot for me to learn. So I'm trying to find more and more time to do that. But try to learn 2 or 3 key skills. Just a handful, 2 or 3 maybe strategies, and then kind of lay out what your game plan looks like. Maybe start paper trading initially, and then allow yourself time to learn. It's time in the market. We're not trying to time the market. We want time in the market so that you will learn how all of this works, and it will allow you to increase your odds to be successful. If you treat your money like it's a business, you guys, I promise you, it will pay you like a business. Anyways, hopefully you guys got a couple of nuggets out of what we just went over. Remember, your day-to-day, your week-to-week is certainly like writing a book. Today's page, some of the things I've learned, I want to ensure that I write that page very, very well. So it's important, day to day. Anyways, we'll see you in the next episode, which will be Sunday. And we know Sunday means parables, and we'll liken something from the Bible, I think, something about hunting for treasure, and we'll liken that with real world stuff and try to tie some things in for a nice, tidy lesson. Anyways, we'll see you next time.